In Japan, most homes are far smaller than what we're used to in the US. Yet, walk into one and you won't feel cramped. You'll feel calm. You'll feel peace. You might even take a breath you didn't know you were holding. Now, here's the twist. It's not about how little they own. It's about how deeply they value what they keep. Every item serves a purpose. Every space has breathing room. And nothing, absolutely nothing, is kept just in case. Misako, a 68-year-old woman from Kyoto now living in California, once said, "Americans think clutter is just too much stuff. But it's not. Clutter is anything that no longer brings you life." And that's the difference. The Japanese don't just tidy their homes. They honor them. And that quiet respect changes the way they live. So here's the question. What if one small mindset shift, just one, could reshape how you feel in your own home every single day from now on? Not by throwing everything away, but by learning a few beautiful, powerful habits that have guided Japanese homes for centuries. Before we begin, do one thing that helps both of us grow. Tap the hype and like button if this already speaks to you, and subscribe if you're ready to feel lighter, clearer, and more in control of your space. It helps us reach more seniors who are ready for change, and it helps you keep receiving the tools that make it happen. Let's do this together. Meet Misako. She's 68, a retired kimono weaver with hands still marked by the gentle creases of silk and decades of quiet craftsmanship. She grew up in Kyoto in a two-room home where she learned how to fold not just fabric, but time. How to move slowly, deliberately. How to notice what most people miss. When Misako's husband passed, her daughter, who had moved to California years earlier, asked her to come live with her. And so, Misako packed up her life. But she didn't pack boxes full of things. She brought only what she cherished: a bamboo tea whisk, 3 photo albums, a handmade ink scroll her husband once gave her, and something invisible but powerful, her habits. The ones she learned from a culture where simplicity is not just aesthetic, it's spiritual. When she arrived in California, her daughter had lovingly prepared a full room for her, a large dresser, wall-to-wall shelving, closets brimming with space. But within weeks, Misako had removed half of it. She didn't criticize it. She simply moved gently. One morning she slid open the closet doors and said softly, "This space is kind, but it's too loud." And she began. One drawer, one breath, one habit at a time. No labels, no trendy storage bins, just small, consistent shifts that slowly changed the entire rhythm of the home. She never pushed her daughter to do the same. But over time, her daughter noticed something. The living room felt easier. The air felt clearer. Even disagreements became softer. You see, Misako didn't just declutter her belongings. She decluttered the energy of her space. And in doing so, she created something many seniors deeply long for, but rarely talk about: emotional lightness. She didn't need to renovate. She didn't need to downsize. She simply made the space breathe and let herself breathe with it. Now, she wants to share those same quiet habits with you. Not to copy her lifestyle, but to gently awaken the parts of your home that feel heavy or forgotten. Because at 68, Misako didn't reinvent her life. She simply returned to what always mattered most, and let the rest go. Habit 1. Empty space is a gift, not a void. When Misako moved into her daughter's home in California, she noticed something almost immediately. The house was filled with warmth, yes, but also with things. Shelves lined with framed photos, figurines, and candles. Cabinets packed edge to edge. Tables covered in stacks of mail, coasters, vases, and decorative pieces. To her daughter, this was a normal lived-in American home. But to Misako, it felt crowded, not in size, but in energy. She didn't say a word about it. She simply watched, observed, and quietly felt the difference. The next morning, while her daughter was out, she walked over to a narrow shelf by the living room window. It held 5 small trinkets and a vase of artificial flowers. Slowly, she removed every item, set them aside, and wiped the shelf clean. And then she left it empty. Later that day, her daughter asked, "Are you planning to put something new there?" Misako smiled gently and said, "No. That space is already full." Her daughter was confused. Full of what? And Misako answered, peace. That was the first time she introduced her to a concept the Japanese have honored for centuries, ma. It means the space between things. Not emptiness as in something missing, but intentional pause. A kind of stillness that allows everything around it to feel more alive. In Japanese homes, ma is everywhere. In the blank space around a scroll. In the open floor around a single flower arrangement. In the pause before a word is spoken. It's not about lacking. It's about allowing. In American culture, we often treat empty space like something is wrong. If there's a blank wall, we fill it. If a shelf is clear, we add something. There's a pressure to decorate, to display, to store. But Misako had learned long ago that true peace doesn't come from having more. It comes from giving your surroundings room to breathe. That empty shelf by the window soon became her favorite part of the house. It caught the morning light. It invited silence. It asked nothing and gave everything. It was a space to pause, not just visually, but emotionally. What Misako understood, and what her daughter eventually came to see, is that empty space is not a void. It's a gift. A shelf without clutter becomes a place to rest your eyes. A counter with nothing on it becomes a place where your thoughts feel clearer. And for older adults, especially those who've spent decades collecting, storing, and holding on to things just in case, the idea of leaving something empty can feel strange, even wasteful. But that one empty shelf quietly changed the energy of the entire room. It brought a calm that couldn't be bought in a store or stored in a bin. It wasn't a design choice. It was a way of life. So, if you're wondering where to start, don't start with a big project. Don't start with trash bags and donations. Start with one shelf, one small table, one windowsill. Clear it, clean it, and leave it empty. Not because you've run out of things to put there, but because you're finally giving your home, and yourself, room to breathe. You may be surprised at how full that empty space can make you feel. Habit 2. Don't declutter to dump, declutter to respect. When Misako began the process of simplifying her new home, she didn't treat it like a purge. There were no frantic donation piles, no black trash bags stuffed with forgotten things. Instead, she approached each item slowly, sometimes even silently. She would pick something up, hold it in her hands, and just sit with it for a moment. Then, softly, almost like a whisper, she would say, "Thank you." That was it. A quiet ritual of release. Her daughter watched her do this the first time with an old coat, her late husband's coat, worn and faded, but still neatly kept. Misako folded it gently, touched the sleeve, and whispered her gratitude before placing it into a small box meant for donation. Her daughter asked, "Wasn't that sentimental?" Misako replied, "Yes. That's why I'm letting it go with care, not guilt." In Japan, this way of parting is called kansho, gratitude. Not just for people, but for objects, experiences, even moments. Kansho teaches that everything has served you in some way. A sweater that kept you warm. A book that once inspired you. Even an item you never used may have taught you what you didn't need. And so instead of tossing things out with frustration or shame, you release them with appreciation. It's not about what the item is worth to someone else. It's about what it gave to you, and whether its purpose in your life is now complete. For many older adults, especially those over 60, letting go can be emotionally tangled. You look at an item and feel guilt. My son gave this to me. I spent good money on that. What if I need it someday? But here's the truth. Holding on to things out of guilt is like trying to carry old weight you no longer need. It doesn't preserve the memory. It buries it. Misako believed that when something has served its time in your life, it deserves to be released, not discarded, but honored. What makes this approach so powerful is that it's not about minimalism. It's not even about having less. It's about having a better relationship with what you own. When you pause and thank an item before letting it go, you're not just cleaning your space. You're acknowledging that your life is changing, evolving, continuing, and that's a beautiful thing. So the next time you find yourself holding something you haven't used in years, ask yourself, am I keeping this out of love or out of guilt? Then hold it. Remember what it gave you. And if its work in your life is done, thank it, and let it go with grace. Because true decluttering doesn't start in your drawers. It starts in your heart. Habit 3. Vertical thinking. The power of Tate-oki. The first time Misako opened the dresser in her new bedroom, she paused. Everything was stacked in uneven piles. Sweaters buried under sweaters. Shirts pressed flat in heavy layers. It wasn't disorganized, but it was overwhelming. To reach one item, she had to disturb several others. To find what she needed, she had to dig and bend, often forgetting what she owned in the first place. That's when she quietly began to shift everything. Not by throwing things out, but by rethinking how they were stored. Instead of piling her clothes like a stack of pancakes, she folded them small and stood them upright side by side, like books on a shelf. This method, known in Japan as Tate-oki, changed everything. Misako didn't stop with clothes. Kitchen drawers were next. Utensils now stored vertically in small containers. Her important documents filed upright in labeled folders. Even towels in the linen cabinet were tucked in side by side, no longer crushed into deep stacks. Suddenly, she could see everything at once. No more reaching. No more digging. Just simple visibility. For seniors, this habit is especially powerful. It reduces the need to bend, squat, or lift. And it brings emotional clarity too. There are no hidden messes. No lost items. Just peaceful, accessible order. We often underestimate how much visual chaos affects our mood. Piles create confusion. Bins we have to root through become stressful. But when everything stands tall, visible, and easy to reach, our homes and our minds feel calmer. And unlike expensive storage solutions, this habit costs nothing. It simply takes attention and care. So try this. Pick just one drawer. Maybe it's your socks or the dish towels. Fold them. Stand them. Give them a little structure. Then open that drawer tomorrow and notice the difference. Because peace doesn't always come from having less. Sometimes it comes from seeing clearly what you already have, lined up, ready, and waiting. Habit 4. One in, one out, a rule of balance. Misako didn't believe in letting clutter creep in unnoticed. After carefully creating a peaceful, intentional space, she knew that even one thoughtless purchase could quietly tip the balance. So, she lived by a simple rule: if something new comes in, something old must go out. Whether it was a scarf, a teacup, or a kitchen gadget, she made space for it by releasing something else. Not because she was strict, but because she was mindful. Even beauty without boundaries can become excess. This habit didn't just prevent clutter. It changed how she shopped. Bringing something new into the home became a conscious exchange. Do I really want this? Turned into what will I let go of in return? That question helped her pause. And often, she realized she didn't need the new thing at all. Her drawers stayed open and breathable. Her shelves never felt heavy. She didn't live with less. She lived with balance. In many American homes, accumulation is slow and subtle. We buy things on sale just in case, or simply out of habit. Each new item comes with a quiet promise to find space for it later. But over time, that promise becomes a burden. The clutter builds, and so does the emotional weight, stress, guilt, and the exhausting pressure to manage it all. Misako's one-in, one-out habit disrupts that cycle. It offers a moment of reflection, a soft boundary that gently asks, is there room for this in the life I'm living today? For seniors, especially those simplifying or preparing for long-term comfort, it's not just about physical space. It's about emotional space too. Try it for yourself. The next time something new enters your home, stop and look around. What item has quietly finished its purpose? Let that item go, and feel how good it feels to make space with intention. Because real peace doesn't come from owning less. It comes from living with just enough, on your terms. Habit 5. Every object speaks, listen closely. Misako moved through her home slowly, not because of age, but because she was paying attention. When she paused in front of a shelf or opened a drawer, she wasn't just tidying. She was listening. Some things, she would say, just look tired. Not broken. Not damaged. Just done. A chipped teacup she hadn't used in years. A faded picture frame with a photo she no longer connected to. A once-loved trinket that now felt like background noise. These objects had served their purpose. They had offered their joy. And now, it was time to let them go. In Japanese culture, there is a quiet belief that objects hold energy. Tsukumagami, a piece of folklore that suggests objects, after a long time of use, take on a kind of spirit or presence. Not everyone takes this literally, but the teaching reflects a deeper truth. The things in our homes are not just things. They carry weight. They carry history. And when their story with us is over, they begin to feel heavy, like they are asking to rest. Misako didn't see her belongings as clutter. She saw them as companions. Some were meant for a season. Others for a lifetime. Letting go wasn't rejection. It was a farewell filled with gratitude. This mindset can feel unfamiliar in many American homes, especially for seniors who have held on to things for decades out of guilt, sentiment, or habit. Over time, those once meaningful items can begin to weigh us down. A drawer you avoid. A closet that overwhelms you. The silent discomfort of objects that no longer reflect who you are today. Misako's approach was gentle. She didn't declutter by category or by strict rules. She decluttered by intuition. She would ask softly, "Does this still bring life into the room? Or does it simply take up space?" That one question changed everything. As she released the tired things, her home began to feel lighter. Not just physically, but emotionally. Her mornings felt clearer. Her decisions came easier. Even her breathing seemed less burdened. Her daughter noticed it too. The house no longer hummed with the quiet tension of too much. It felt alive again. So today, don't start with a checklist. Don't start with pressure. Start with attention. Walk slowly through your home. Let your eyes settle where they naturally land. Pick up one item and ask, "Does this still belong with me?" If it no longer speaks to you, it's okay to let it rest. Because the more we release what has finished its story, the more space we create for peace, for clarity, and for the life that still wants to unfold. Habit 6. Daily microtidying, the Suji routine. Every morning, as the light filtered in and the kettle began to hum, Misako tended to one small part of her home. She didn't clean the whole house. She didn't follow a long checklist. She simply chose one surface, a counter, a corner table, the edge of the bathroom sink, and cared for it. A wipe, a tidy, a gentle straightening. It wasn't about finishing a task. It was about honoring her space with presence and calm. This quiet ritual comes from a Japanese tradition called Suji, the idea of cleaning not out of obligation, but as a form of daily respect. It isn't saved for weekends. It isn't performed only when guests are coming. It isn't about scrubbing or deep cleaning. It's about consistency. A few minutes each morning that clear both space and spirit. Misako believed that when you care for your surroundings with small, steady attention, they respond with peace. For many American seniors, tidying has always come in big, exhausting waves. Cleaning when things are already out of control. Spending hours bending, lifting, and sorting only once the clutter feels overwhelming. But Misako's habit stopped the chaos before it began. Her 5-minute ritual brought clarity. It kept clutter from building. More importantly, it gave her a sense of grounding at the very start of her day. What makes this habit so powerful is how little it asks. No special tools. No expensive products. No elaborate plans. Just 5 minutes. One surface. One act of care. And the rhythm she created from it became part of her well-being. Over time, she noticed those areas stayed tidy longer, not because she enforced it, but because she respected them. And in turn, she respected herself. Even her daughter, quietly observing, began to adopt the habit. Not because she was told to. Not out of pressure. But because it simply felt good. For older adults, especially those facing the changes of aging, this ritual offers something vital: control, comfort, and pride. So tomorrow, before the rush begins, find one small spot. Wipe it. Straighten it. Step back. And notice how something as small as 5 mindful minutes can change the pace and peace of your whole day. Habit 7. Seasonal switch-outs, Shun. Misako never saw her home as something fixed. To her, it moved with the seasons, softly, subtly, just like the trees outside her window. Instead of decorating based on trend or impulse, she followed a rhythm called Shun, a Japanese tradition rooted in staying connected to seasonal change. Her home reflected the time of year through gentle shifts. Never loud. Never cluttered. Always in harmony with the present moment. In spring, she folded away thick woven fabrics and brought out soft pastels. A single vase with budding branches might sit quietly in the entryway, reminding her that life was opening again. In summer, she let sunlight spill through lighter curtains, removing heavy throws and embracing open space. Windows were cleared. Shelves were simplified. The house felt as airy as the season itself. Autumn welcomed warmer textures and earthy tones. Dried herbs by the kitchen. A deeper rug by the sofa. Candles with the faint scent of spice. Nothing overwhelming, just quiet notes of the harvest season. Winter brought deeper colors, candlelight, and touches of wood that made the space feel grounded and calm. A single pine branch in a narrow vase. A warm quilt folded neatly at the edge of her bed. None of these changes were grand or costly. Most involved items she already owned, thoughtfully rotated in and out as the seasons shifted. The point wasn't to refresh the house. It was to stay in harmony with time itself. As Misako aged, this practice became even more meaningful. Her home became her landscape. And through these seasonal rituals, she stayed in step with the natural world outside, even when her body didn't move as easily anymore. For many American seniors, it's easy to let rooms remain the same for years. Decor stays where it has always been. Curtains never change. Shelves gather the same objects, untouched season after season. But Shun invites us to ask, what belongs to this moment? What can rest until next season? Maybe it's a winter-themed pillow still on the sofa in June. Maybe it's a heavy throw rug that could be tucked away for summer. Maybe it's as simple as changing a candle scent from cinnamon to citrus, from heavy to light. Even small shifts can make a space feel freshly alive. You don't need to buy anything new. You only need to notice. To pause and ask what item could be stored today to make room for now. Because when your home responds to the season you are in, something beautiful happens. You stop feeling stuck in time. You begin to move with it. And like the earth itself, your space breathes a little easier. Habit 8. Declutter by category, not by room. When most people begin decluttering, the instinct is to tackle a room, any room, and try to fix it from wall to wall. But that's often where burnout begins. Misako learned this the hard way. When she first tried to declutter her living space, she went room by room. What she found was confusion. Clothes in the hallway closet. Paperwork in the kitchen drawer. Tools tucked into the bedroom dresser. Every corner demanded a different kind of decision. And very quickly, it became overwhelming. So she shifted her method entirely. Instead of organizing by room, Misako began with categories. Clothing came first. She gathered every single piece from every part of the home, no matter where it was hiding, in drawers, closets, storage bins. Only when all of it was in one place did she begin sorting. If it no longer fit, no longer felt like her, or hadn't been worn in years, it was released. After that came books. Then paper. Then miscellaneous household goods. Sentimental items, the ones packed with emotion, she saved for last. This gave her time to build confidence and clarity before facing the more difficult decisions. For seniors, this approach can be transformative. Cleaning a room often means running into a jumble of categories, clothing next to paperwork, keepsakes next to unused appliances. Each requires a different kind of thought, a different emotional response. That constant switching creates fatigue. But sorting by categories simplifies the process. You're making one kind of decision at a time. It focuses the mind. It reduces emotional clutter. And most importantly, it builds momentum. When you finish one category, there is a sense of relief, a sense of progress. You're no longer asking, is this room done? You're asking, is this type of item complete? That small shift makes all the difference. Misako's daughter noticed it, too. At first, she couldn't understand why her mother was pulling shoes from every corner of the house, lining them up in neat rows on the floor. But when she watched Misako gently pick up each pair, asking if it still fit her life, if it still carried its purpose, she understood. By the end of the day, the shoes were no longer scattered across rooms. What remained was a simple, intentional collection, easy to see, easy to use. And with that, the whole house felt lighter. So, today, before you grab a trash bag and head into a single room, pause. Ask yourself instead, what category feels easiest to start with? Maybe it's shoes. Maybe it's expired pantry items. Maybe it's paper clutter that has been building up for years. Start there. Start small. Gather it all. Sort it once and for all. And then let that small victory give you the confidence to move to the next category. Because lasting change doesn't come from speed. It comes from clarity, and the quiet strength that grows when you focus on one thoughtful category at a time. Habit 9. Display only what you love, the tokonoma tradition. In many traditional Japanese homes, there is a quiet space called the tokonoma. A small alcove, often just a single recessed area, that holds one or two carefully chosen items. A seasonal flower. A single scroll. A meaningful heirloom. It's not about decoration. It's about stillness. A place where the eye can rest, where the heart can reconnect. Nothing cluttered. Nothing there to impress. Just presence. When Misako moved into her California home, she didn't fill every shelf with objects. She didn't scatter decorations across every surface. She searched instead for her token, a space where intention could live. She found it in a quiet corner by the window. On a narrow wooden shelf, she placed a small ceramic vase made by her mother. Inside it, one dried sprig of lavender. Above it, a single scroll with hand-brushed calligraphy. That space, though small, changed the entire feel of the room. It wasn't loud. It wasn't elaborate. But it drew the eye, and more importantly, it drew the spirit into a pause. Guests naturally lingered there, not because it was flashy, but because it radiated a kind of peace, the energy of something chosen with care and given the dignity of space. For many seniors, shelves and mantels have become crowded with years of memories, gifts, and decorations. At first, each piece carries meaning. But over time, when everything is displayed, nothing truly shines. The room becomes a blur of objects, each competing for attention, until they all fade into the background. But when you display only what you love, what speaks to you in this season of life, you create clarity. You create reverence. You remind yourself what matters most, not what mattered once upon a time, but what still nourishes you now. This habit isn't about stripping your home bare. It isn't about removing everything. It's about choosing carefully. About letting one or two pieces breathe so they can be seen, honored, and enjoyed every day. Misako often said, a single vase, in an empty space, is not lonely. It is alive. That's what the tokonoma teaches. Emptiness does not diminish beauty, it amplifies it. So today, choose one small area in your home. A windowsill. A shelf. A corner table. Clear it. Wipe it gently. Then place just one object you love there. A photo that still makes you smile. A smooth stone from a favorite walk. A candle you light each night. Give it the dignity of its own space. Let it speak without competition. Because when you create a place for meaning, your home and your spirit begin to feel lighter, clearer, and more at peace. Habit 10. Decluttering is self-respect, not a chore. For Misako, decluttering has never been about appearances or perfection. She doesn't do it to impress guests. She doesn't do it because of trends in magazines. She does it because it honors who she is today. To her, decluttering is not a burden. It is a quiet act of self-respect, a way of saying, I matter enough to live in a space that supports me, not overwhelms me. Her home is not empty. It is not bare. It is thoughtful. Every object has a reason to be there. Every surface feels calm and intentional. And that brings her a peace that goes far beyond tidy drawers or clean counters. Too often, decluttering is treated like a dreaded task, something to put off until the weekend, or until guests are coming, or until the guilt grows too heavy. It's another line on the to-do list. Another obligation. Another reason to sigh. But Misako approaches it differently. She doesn't rush. She doesn't tear through closets. She doesn't make it into a battle. She moves slowly, one thoughtful decision at a time. To her, decluttering is not a punishment. It is a kindness, a way to care for herself the same way she once cared for her family and her craft. She believes that how we care for our space mirrors how we care for ourselves. When we clear physical clutter, we also clear mental weight. We make room for clarity, for breath, for stillness. And for seniors who have spent decades carrying the weight of objects, memories, and expectations, this shift can be life-changing. Misako once said, "Every time I let something go, I make more room for myself." Not more stuff, more ease, more space to move, to rest, to live with intention. That's what this habit is about. Not creating a perfect house. Not copying someone else's version of minimalism. But creating a home that reflects who you are now. Not who you were 30 years ago. Not who others expect you to be. Just you. So if you've been waiting for the right time, the perfect mood, or enough energy to declutter, pause and consider this. Maybe you don't have to do it all. Maybe you don't need to wait. Maybe you only need to take one step. Clear one drawer. Release one item. Let that single act remind you that your peace is worth prioritizing. Because in the end, decluttering isn't about less. It's about more. More ease. More clarity. More life. Decluttering is not a chore. It is dignity in motion. Each morning now, just after the light slips through the blinds, Misako sits quietly in her favorite chair by the window. There is no phone in her hand. No television playing in the background. Just a single teacup cradled between her palms, a small potted plant resting on the sill, and a folded blanket neatly draped over the side. Her space is still. Her mind is calm. Her heart feels steady. Nothing is competing for her attention. Nothing feels unfinished. The home around her doesn't hum with stress or demand. It simply supports her, holds her, gives her room to breathe. And the beauty of it all is this: it didn't happen overnight. It didn't require buying a single thing. It started with one small decision. One drawer. One object she let go of. Not with guilt, but with gratitude. That tiny act created a ripple. One peaceful corner led to another. One thoughtful habit became a rhythm. And eventually, the entire home, without ever being perfect, became a place of soft belonging. That is the transformation so many seniors quietly hope for but aren't sure how to reach. Not just a tidy house, but a home that breathes with them. A space that reflects who they are now, not who they used to be. Misako's journey reminds us that this is possible, gently, gradually, meaningfully. You don't need to declutter your entire house today. You don't need to take on massive projects or overwhelm yourself with decisions. You just need to begin with one moment of clarity. One object held with honesty. One surface treated with care. One small shift that says, this space matters. And so do I. And from there, something changes. Not just in your environment, but in your sense of peace. So if Misako's story has stirred something in you, let it guide you. Let it be your first small step toward lightness. Tap the like button if you felt even one moment of calm while listening. Let that be your first small act of intention. If one of these habits spoke to your heart, if it reminded you of your grandmother, or of the way your home used to feel, or of the quiet you've been longing for, share it in the comments. Your story may be the encouragement someone else needs. And if you're ready not just to clean or organize, but to truly reclaim your space as a sanctuary, then subscribe now. Join thousands of wise, thoughtful seniors who are simplifying, not for the sake of less, but for the sake of more. More peace. More purpose. More life. Because home isn't just where you live. It's where you return to yourself. And that journey can begin today.